Hello, and welcome to the Emotional Endurance Movement podcast. This week's episode is dedicated to all the people we've lost along the way. Hello, and welcome to the Emotional Endurance Movement podcast, the only mental health variety show that actually cares about whether or not you're building your emotional endurance. I'm Lori Sharp-Page, your Chief Coping Officer, and here with me, our perennial guest, our behaviorist at large, and someone who just hosted a 13-year-old boy's birthday party with 6 other teens in a cabin in the woods. It's Crimson McDonald.
Howdy, y'all.
This week on the Emotional Endurance Movement, we're talking about the feeling of grief and the coping skill of both and. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's get into it. Now it's time for our Insight of the Week. Crimson, what do you got for us?
Okay, Lori. So this week I picked a quote from, I think it's Glennon Doyle. She's the one that has the podcast, We Can Do Hard Things, because a lot of what we're doing is really helping people understand that life isn't supposed to be easy all the time. Okay, Lori. So this week I picked a quote from a podcaster. I think it's Glennon Doyle. She's the one that We Can Do Hard Things, felt really on brand with us. But what she has to say is life is brutal, life is beautiful, and life is both. And I thought that this was a great encapsulation of this week's episode, because a lot of what we're here to do is to talk about how life isn't easy and we don't get to avoid the hard stuff. We just get better at handling it. So what do you think of this quote? Does this nail it?
I have a complex relationship with Glennon Doyle, which I will speak to in a moment. But I will say, yes, in this specific instance, I agree with her. Life is a lot of things. And I think for a long time, we have been really focused on how to make life perfect and good and happy all the time, like live, laugh, love kind of vibes. And I think that's where we should lead from, for sure. I don't think there's anything wrong with putting the majority of our energy there. But we can't use that to deny the intensity and even at times brutality of life, because it only tells one piece of the story. And I think life is so nuanced. The older I get, the more I realize that wisdom is the ability to handle the innate nuance of life. So I agree with Glennon Doyle in this quote. Now, here's my complicated relationship with her. First of all, I will go ahead and say part of it is jealousy. Because when I read the first chapter in her most recent book, Untamed, which was really the one where she really hit the mass market, became a bestseller. When I read that first chapter, I was mad, I was pissed, I was jealous because I didn't write it. I was working on what would ultimately become my book, Conscious Coping, at the time, and I just felt like, what the hell? Like, this lady just like walked in and like named this really powerful, intense thing that I think a lot of women were struggling with at the time and continue to struggle with, which is the idea of being tamed by the world. Right. And she does it in a beautiful narrative. I will never forget the first chapter of that book, but it made me so mad. And I've had strong feelings towards Glennon Doyle continuing. Part of it is because of her personality and how she brings things to the table. And like, she's not, I don't want to say that it's bad. It's just not my style.
Right.
I think it has a little bit more of a, like what I would call like a charismatic style. And she comes from, her first books were really focused on her faith and Christianity and womanhood. And since Untamed, she has unveiled to everybody these big changes that, good for her, she's made in her life that have led her to be living a more true life. But it is all still very aspirational.
Right.
And this is where I got angry at her a lot, because I feel like she and I are saying similar things at times. And she has an audience and I'm still working to find mine, right? I will be the biggest person to say that, yes, she is right here. And I have a complex relationship with her. And I also think her stuff is really good and she speaks to a certain audience. But Glennon Doyle for me has become a really good reminder in my life that I can't compare myself to others. I can't compare my work to others. I can't compare my business to others. It never ends well. Mm-hmm. And that is part of the brutality of life that I can control and I am removing for myself. And that is like probably one of my favorite examples to share of how I've used conscious coping. To be able to sit on here and say, like, yeah, she kind of pisses me off and she's right, and she's talented. And I get why people really hear her and respond to her. And don't know her at all, but I will say I'm very proud to see how she has transitioned her life into something that fits her in a more authentic way than what was before, because she was very successful even before. And I can imagine that having that level of success would make it even harder to kind of shift gears and walk away. So that is my unpacking of my emotional experience. I just dumped
Wow.
that purse right out, didn't I?
Okay. Trigger warning was not given, nor did I know it was needed, but now I know. That just unpacks a lot. But I think it's fascinating that, so I had picked this quote before listening to a podcast that I sent you last night, actually, which is Brene Brown and Adam Grant, my favorite podcast right now. I don't know the name of it, the Curiosity Lab, something. It's adorable.
Curiosity, which made me think it was going to be about crafts. Just a little bit of feedback there.
The benefit of having the audience already and not having to build it. And the question that they unpacked was, are human nervous systems prepared for the level of uncertainty that we're up against as humans right now? Well, they articulated beautiful arguments that we are, and that actually the problem that we are up against as humans, as a species, is we have not had to exercise or hardwire the resilience needed to handle the chaos. And it was fascinating.
That sounds like our argument as a business.
Yeah, I was cleaning my lawn. I was doing my closet, like listening to it. I'm like, wait, like we're as smart as Adam Grant and Brene Brown? Yeah, no, because I mean, that's totally what they were talking about. And I had the same reaction as you. Like, no, my nervous system, like me, Crimson, I was not built for this level of uncertainty. But then when they talked about what would it be like when we were Neanderthals and you didn't know if you were going to eat, you didn't know what the weather was going to be. I mean, there was so much more uncertainty. The only thing that has changed is our level of comfort and discomfort with uncertainty. And it built a business case for us because
ability to cope with it.
The ability to have the resilience to endure what life has to throw at you. Because
I do agree that fundamentally at our core, we are equipped. But there's atrophy here.
Yes.
There's lack of practice. And that's why we're here ahead of the curve trying to let people know that, like, it's time to upgrade your skill set.
Yeah.
And it's okay. It doesn't mean you did anything wrong. But, like, it's just getting a little wacky.
It was just interesting. I picked this quote and then I listened to that podcast and I thought, I mean, this is the conversation people are yearning for. This is the conversation we're here to bring. This is the conversation we need to have because we are, for our generation, for all the generations alive right now, we are facing the most uncertainty that we have ever had to face. So yes, while prehistoric time and, long, long ago, humans were up against a lot of uncertainty, we haven't been. And that's what our business brings, is the ability to train that brain. That rhymed. Train that brain to endure it. And so, yeah, I thought it all came full circle last night as I cleaned my closet.
And then full circle again this morning as I dumped my purse out about my complex relationship with Glennon Doyle.
Yeah, I had no idea it would trigger you.
Now it's time for our word from the feeling of the week: grief. The feeling of the week this week is grief. And I know it's hard to talk about, but we need to spend a little time here. It's often about death, but not always. Here's what we need to talk about with grief. Grief is not just about death and loss. It's also about love that often has nowhere to go. You can grieve a person who is still alive. You can grieve a version of yourself you left behind. You can grieve a future you already planned that quietly stopped being possible. Grief is not necessarily dramatic, but it is consistent. Philosophically, grief is proof that something mattered. You do not grieve what was meaningless. You grieve what was real, valuable, and meaningful. The problem is often that we treat grief like a timeline, a quick thing to get through. Like, at this point in time, I should be over it. But that's not really how it works. We go through grief and it shifts and it changes and it looks different every single day. So for this moment, I want you to think about something that you're grieving right now. Maybe nobody knows you're grieving it. Maybe you barely even have let yourself admit it. Just name it silently. And I want you to finish the sentence in your head. This hurt because it mattered. Because, and then fill in the blanks. And then sit with it. 1 second. Then sit with it and allow yourself to really look at it. Because grief itself is not a weakness. It's really a receipt for everything that you've loved and everything that meant something. And it has real value in our life. And I'm going to go off script a little bit here this week, because part of the reason our feeling of the week this week is grief is because I lost my grandmother, my 93-year-old, adorable, inspiring, one of the best people I've ever met grandmother. One of the things that conscious coping and emotional endurance has given me, and this is because of all the practice I put in the last couple of years, is that I'm finding that I'm able to walk into this grief differently. Not fighting it, not shaming it, not rejecting it, but working to accept it for the sign of success. My grandma lived a full and love-filled life and impacted more people than I'll ever know. And grief was the inevitable outcome to the story. But I think along with this grief here, I'm recognizing my ability to sit in the nuance of grieving her loss and seeing this outcome as the outcome of a successful life. Tomorrow, when we all join together as a family to honor her, there will be no doubt what the impact of my grandma has been. And that is the nuance I want to hold really tightly as I grapple through the inevitable and challenging and often not linear or rational experience of grief that I'm having with accepting that she is no longer here with us. Grief is something that we try and run from. We try and pretend isn't a thing, but it's not pathology. It's something we all experience throughout our lives in both heavy doses and small. And I think one of the most important things to remember about grief is that it is a process. And wherever you are along that process, whether it's fresh and hasn't quite hit, like I'm sitting with now, or whether it's been years of grappling and shifting and changing and wrestling with it, every single part of the process has value. And it means that there was great love here. And it's your job to now recognize that being on the other side of it doesn't make that any less true. And that's all from this week's Feeling of the Week, grief. Now it's time for this week's show and tell, where we're going to tell you what we're grieving. Cat's already out of the bag, so I'm going to be talking about my grandma. So I'm going to pass it over to Crimson to get us started and hear about what she's grieving this week.
Well, what am I grieving? I am grieving my son turning 13. So tomorrow, my oldest is turning 13, and I am grieving a lot. It happened like as quick as they say it will. But when I look at him, I still see this like tiny little thing that needed me for everything. But now he has like thighs that are like bigger than mine. I'm just really grieving. I used to be the center of his world, and now he's building a whole life that doesn't revolve around me, that revolves around him as it should. And there's part of me that misses and grieves that part of motherhood, I think. I'm grieving like the chaos of his little tiny body running around the house and all the routines and the things that felt so overwhelming in those moments. I wish I could just like step back into with like the reflection I have now. So I'm just grieving everything, the mistakes, the moments I missed out, the moments I didn't go slow enough, the moments I wasn't really there, the times that I got focused on the wrong things, that I didn't behave the way I wanted to. there's no manual for life. There's no amount of preparation that we could have done to prepare yourself for loving something to only let go of it. But I'm trying to do the skill that we're trying to teach, right? Which is the both and. And I really have to start looking at this as grieving that phase of my life and his life is natural, but I should be more focused on the excitement of what's to come. He's an awesome kid. He is so fascinating. Getting to watch him grow up is such a blessing. And so I just really need to lean in on the duality of grief, of mourning what has passed, but also appreciating what was and the memories that you've banked and being excited about what's to come. And so, yeah, I'm grieving a fun phase of my life when I got to be mommy, and be his everything. And now I'm the nagging woman that's like, get your laundry done, get to lacrosse, do this, do that. This grade sucks. You suck. This sucks. I miss getting to be the cool mom that just planned days of adventures and fun. So yeah, it sucks.
Parenthood really, this is like one of the gnarliest parts of parenthood, is this like the grieving what was while also anticipating and being excited about what will be and what is. It's very nuanced. There's a lot to unpack there. So
Right.
I can
And
imagine I will feel very similarly at 13, but I also felt that way a lot. And I think I talked about it in the podcast, like when the kids started taking the bus this year. Like I was a mess.
you let
about
go.
that.
I mean, you have to let go at each phase. And I know that's like, I mean, luckily there is an on-ramp and off-ramp that like prepares you for these things, but it still hits you. It's true grief. It's mourning a phase of life, but it's also completely unhealthy. Like, what am I going to do? Lock them in my house with me? And
I mean, yeah, I mean, you can't stop development, but I think that's the other part of it too, is like these griefs that come out of like when things are going well, like he's having his 13th birthday. That's what we want,
yeah, we got
right?
him here.
Yeah, but it is still like it's nuanced. It's just parenthood humbles me every single day with stuff like that, where it's just like, oh,
Well, I keep
feel it.
joking with all of my friends that I should have dated more. Like, I don't think I hate to confess this, but I don't think I ever really liked a boyfriend. Like, I married the only guy I ever liked. And so I don't remember ever getting like my heart broken. Like, I don't remember like being in my room crying over a dude. And I really wish I would have done that. Like, I wish I would have gone. Like, I feel like my son's the first dude that's like breaking my heart. And the poor kid's like, Jesus, woman, get it together. And I'm like, oh my God, you don't need me. But yeah,
Maybe
I've never, I mean, this is going to sound so like arrogant, but like everything I've loved, I've always got to keep. And he's the first thing that like I brought him into this world. My stomach is destroyed for the rest of my life because of him. And I mean,
all the calcium he
everyone,
stole.
I mean, everyone's life, you completely have a 180 and you do it for them. And then one day you wake up and they're like, that whole decade of your life, I don't even know what you're talking about. I have my own life. Go do you. And it's a lot. I'm grieving it. I have been struggling with insomnia, so there's been more tears than necessary. But I think that it's healthy to grieve it. But I think it's kind of gotten to an unhealthy level to where now I just need to like lean into the excitement and acknowledge that nothing's stopping this train. I don't want it to stop because, you know, the opposite, it's not what we want. So yeah, that's what I'm grieving. My son's innocent childhood and now asshole teen years.
Yay! So as I already mentioned, the feeling of the week, I'm grieving my grandma this week. I want to tell 2 stories real fast, and they're related. So the first story I told in my first book, Conscious Coping, but basically after my dad died, I like walked into my therapist's office. This was maybe like 5 days after he died. And I walked into my therapist's office and I was like, all right, give me the checklist, give me the worksheet. I got like a week off of work and school. So like I just need to work through this grief stuff and like get done with it. And it just speaks to like how immature I was. I just did not understand. And, the grief of my dad's death is still with me. I've spent a lot of time with it recently. My grandma's funeral tomorrow is going to be almost a complete redo of my dad's funeral as far as like location and timing and everything. And my body really is like feeling it, which is interesting because that's trauma invited to the party. But there's no trauma around my grandma's death. Like I said, I mean, like she lived a full life, and I actually got to see her a couple weeks ago and give her a hug and a kiss. And, at the end of the day, like I was able to say goodbye. I remember like after my dad died that I had no tolerance for any of this. And I spoke to the fact that my tolerance is increasing. Part of the reason it's increasing because of the lesson that my grandma taught me during this period of time, which is the second story I want to tell. My grandma taught me to look at everything, any challenges that we face as just a bump in the road. It's just that. Not a mountain, not a gulf, but just a bump in the road. And after my dad died, my grandma basically showed up and helped me be the administrator of the estate. And there was a lot that happened, court dates and files, and there was just a lot. And my grandmother was a bookkeeper. She was retired at that point in time, but she had been a bookkeeper, so she's very organized. She's very good at handling this sort of stuff, and I was not. So she handled a lot of that, and then I handled a lot of the other stuff, and we worked together. We were a great team. And my middle name is Dee, after my grandma, Dolores, who everyone called Dee. I just felt really strongly that I needed to interject that in there. And it took about 2.5, maybe 3 years to get everything with my dad's estate settled. It was really challenging. And I remember a big part of that time period was my grandma just coaching me along, because there was things that got uncovered along. Like it was like bad news, worst news, the worst news. Like it just kept coming, kept coming.
For context for the audience, this is your maternal grandmother. So this was not your father's mom. Mm-hmm. This was not another
mom,
legal.
Who was very close. Yeah. My mom's mom and my dad's mom were very close to my father. And so, so she really helped me build my tolerance, exactly what we're talking about, because she really normalized the bumps in the road along the way and really normalized the idea of making choice when we encounter those bumps in the road, right? And kind of the early impetus of conscious coping, like, what am I going to do with that? And sometimes the solution is I need to walk away today. I need to get more information. And sometimes the answer is I need to respond right now. Like this is an urgent situation. So I'm feeling a lot of gratitude for my grandma. I know tomorrow is going to be a different day with the funeral, and I am a little apprehensive about all of that. But more than apprehensive, and this is where my growth is and what I'm really excited to share, is that even though I am grieving right now, I'm also very excited to celebrate my grandma tomorrow. I'm very excited to show up for her and to celebrate in her life. And that is actually the biggest feeling that I have. And that's a tremendous level of like per growth. And I'm happy I can respect my grandma in that way, to be able to show up and celebrate her authentically. So that's what I'm grieving this week.
Well, Lori, that's a lot, but thanks for sharing the story, because, I mean, she had a beautiful life, and I think it's easy for people to blow off, well, she was in her 90s, get over it. But as I've told you, you've also been on the planet for like 40 years and been able to pick up the phone and call her, and now you can't, and that is a void that will never be filled. But I'm glad that you get to celebrate her, and I'm glad that she had such a beautiful life, and it's going to suck in so many ways, but it's going to be great. You've said it 100 times. I actually saw a TikTok with someone saying it the other day. They were talking about different types of wealth, and they said the one that's least spoken about is good family.
Yeah.
And I feel like since I met you, when you talk about your grandparents, it's like, I am so lucky. I am so lucky. I am so lucky.
So privileged.
When I won the family lottery, I have amazing And so I'm really glad that they got to not just be part of the foundation, but also they're with you for basically half of your life. And they're such a big part of who you are and who your kids will be and the decisions you've made. So
I have to say this because if my grandpa because my grandpa is on YouTube. And so if he does see this, I need to say he was also a huge help. He didn't do the bookkeeping and the admin, but he helped us so much too. And I have said it before and I'll say it again, and I'm proud to say it on our podcast. The biggest privilege I have ever had in my life, and I've had a lot of them, is that I was born into a family that actually really loved each other.
Yep.
And actually really showed up when times got tough. And it really is the ultimate privilege, and I'm so grateful for it.
Yeah. I'm glad you had that. Someone that can't even process it. It's hard to understand the pain that you feel in the void. But you're being strong, you're coping, you're helping your mom get through it.
I'm recording podcasts.
You're
Look at
working.
me.
I know you shouldn't be working. You really shouldn't, but you're here. So good job.
I'm here. Now a word from our skill of the week. Our skill of the week this week is called both and. I teach you the two most powerful words in emotional endurance. They're not stay strong or think positive or just eat some pizza. The words are both and. Both and is the skill of holding two true things that may oppose each other at the same time without making one of them wrong. And it's harder than it sounds because our brains are wired for either yes, no. Either I'm fine or I'm falling apart. Either I'm grateful or I'm struggling. Either I loved it or I lost it. Binary thinking. But real life is not so either or. Real life is a lot of both and all the time. I can be exhausted and I still love showing up. I can be grieving and I can feel grateful. I can be scared and absolutely certain that this is the right thing for me. Both things at once, neither one of them canceling the other out. Both and doesn't resolve the tension, it just makes space for it. It teaches you to live inside the tension without being destroyed by it, by accepting things that maybe don't seem like they go together. This is a core form of how emotional endurance can help you manage distress. I want you to take a second to think about something you're holding right now that feels contradictory, something that feels like it should not be able to exist along something else. And I want you to put both and in the middle of it. And now think about it. How does that shift things for you? How does it change things for you? By being able to sit with both and, you're able to get more honest how nuanced, complex, and dynamic you and the world around you actually are. And isn't a compromise, it's a liberation by allowing yourself to accept opposing things that your brain struggles to process through simply because of its operating system. But by doing so, you're better able to sit with the often complex emotional realities of life. And that's all from this week's Skill of the Week, both and. It's time for this week's Game of the Week, which Crimson completely developed. So let's see how it goes. Crimson?
All right, Lori. So what I came up with is cry laughing. So as we know, life has a way of making you feel two feelings at the exact same time. So what we're going to do is we're going to get out our picker wheel. And then you don't have a buzzard. I don't have a buzzard. So we need our signs.
Whoever speaks first, or you want to put up signs?
Yeah. Me. We can put me on the sign. Click me. All right, Lori. So what we're going to do is we're going to get out our picker wheel. I've loaded it up with scenarios that could either be good or bad. And we are going to compete at who can try to both and it first. And if it's a tie in timing, then we can compete on who has the better both and.
Okay.
All right, Lori, here we go. What are we going to get? You finally stopped getting carded. Oh, you win.
I'm old and it gives me so much more freedom.
You can buy alcohol. It's great, huh?
It's true. I have been able to do that for a minute.
Yeah, I don't even get carded anymore. All right. Ready? You become an empty
right.
nester, and I was so quick to do it because I dread this day. But I am going to be excited because that means my house will be clean. It's the small stuff, Lori. You lose the pet you had before you had kids. I have a both and. I got this one covered. So when I lost mine, they stopped pissing on my stuff. I could have like soft, fuzzy blankets everywhere. My cats would pee on fuzzy stuff. And then I had babies and there's lots of fuzzy little stuff everywhere. And it just was like a total disaster. So it sucked and I could have fuzzy things again.
All right. You helped me kind of ground this. Mine's similar. I no longer have to pick up a 150-pound Mastiff from the floor when they're unable to get up. There was a little while there with our dear Murphy girl where especially our hardwood floor, if she got stuck on the hardwood floor, she just could not get up. The carpet, she was able to do more. And we probably should have said goodbye sooner, but.
Ugh, that's hard. Bummer.
Yeah.
That was sad. You finally quit the job everyone told you to keep.
All right. I got this one.
All right.
You appreciate everybody's advice and you're going to make the best decision for you. And only you know what that is.
True. All right. Pretty good. You win PTO president or PTA. That would be the
You
parent.
signed up to do more work and you're going to get to know the people that support your kids better.
Sorry. You just need some crimson energy. You win. That means people trust and respect your leadership and you get to engage with the administrators at a different level. Your kids stops believing in Santa. I got it. Buy less presents. You don't have to buy as many presents. I buy Santa presents and I buy parent presents, and once kid doesn't believe, then you don't have to buy the Santa ones.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's coming from someone that believed in Santa until they were 11 years old because they realized that their mom would buy them less.
I'm putting on my inner existentialist hat for this one. The spark of childhood joy is brief. And that's part of what makes it so meaningful.
True. If it was forever, it wouldn't be magic, right?
Yep.
That's true. Okay, Lori. Well, thanks for entertaining my game.
This game was both frustrating and insightful. That's all for this week's episode of the Emotional Endurance Movement. Before you scroll away, make sure to like, follow, and subscribe for more great weekly coping content. And we hope to see you back next week because when you watch us, you're not just learning about emotional endurance. We're also giving you the opportunity to practice alongside of us and recognize that you're not alone on this journey. We're all in it, whether we want to pay attention to it or not. Please join us next week where you bring the feelings.
And we'll bring the games.
Bye.
Peace out.